The history of mining and its development. The history of mining begins as early as the Stone Age, when humans first collected surface-level raw materials, such as flint, obsidian, or colored earth pigments like ochre. Soon, extraction became more deliberate. Shallow pits and simple tunnels were used to systematically exploit deposits. Famous prehistoric mining landscapes such as Grimes Graves in England or Krzemionki in Poland reveal remarkable specialization in flint mining. Salt also played an early and important role. At the Hallstatt salt mines in Austria, continuous mining activity can be traced back to the Bronze Age. With the transition to metalworking, mining became increasingly complex. The production of bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, required targeted extraction of these ores. Copper was mined in open pits and short adits, while the rarity of tin prompted long-distance trade networks that linked regions like Cornwall with centers of metallurgy. In antiquity, mining reached a large-scale industrial dimension for the first time. Major extraction regions developed in the Mediterranean world, including Rio Tinto on the Iberian Peninsula and the silver and lead mines of Lorion in Attica. Techniques such as fire setting to fracture rock, wooden water-lifting devices for drainage, and early shaft and gallery construction allowed deeper penetration into the earth. Mining was closely tied to state structures and the monetary economy. The demand for coin metals drove production, often using enslaved labor. Beyond Europe, significant mining cultures also emerged: salt and metal production in China and India, or advanced metallurgical traditions in the Andes, long before Spanish colonial rule expanded and restructured these systems. After the collapse of ancient economic systems, mining initially declined, only to experience renewed growth in the early and high Middle Ages as populations expanded and cities developed. Local rulers actively supported the opening of deposits, founded mining towns such as Freiburg and Goslar, and established mining regulations that provided clear legal frameworks. Technological improvements in hoisting and drainage followed. Hand winches, horse-powered treadmills, and increasingly complex water pumping systems enhanced the productivity of mines. In the late Middle Ages and Renaissance, ore mining, especially silver mining, flourished. Regions such as the Ore Mountains, Schwaz in Tyrol, and the Harz became major economic centers. Knowledge about mining and metallurgy was systematically compiled, most famously in Georgius Agricola's De Re Metallica, 1556, which remains a foundational reference. Advances in surveying and ventilation, along with early experiments using gunpowder for blasting, paved the way for the next stage of technological development. In the early modern period, and during industrialization, mining changed fundamentally. Gunpowder and steel tools increased excavation efficiency, but the decisive innovation was the steam engine. The atmospheric engine developed by Newcomen and later greatly improved by Watt enabled the drainage of deep shafts and thus mining below the groundwater level. Coal and iron became key raw materials of industrial economies, and mining regions such as the Ruhr, northern England, and Wallonia came to define the industrial age. However, increasing mining depth introduced new safety problems. Fire damp explosions and mine disasters were commonplace until technological improvements, like the Davy lamp and labor reforms, gradually enhanced safety. In the 20th century, mechanization and mass extraction dominated. Giant excavators, conveyor systems, and bucket wheel excavators enabled large-scale surface mining. New processing techniques such as flotation allowed the economical use of very fine ores, while hydrometallurgical methods like heap leaching expanded the range of extractable materials. Specialized sectors emerged, including petroleum and natural gas extraction. Workplace safety, regulatory standards, and early approaches to land reclamation became increasingly important. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, digitalization has transformed mining. Automated vehicles, remotely operated drilling systems, and real-time monitoring have improved both efficiency and safety. Advances in geology and exploration, from satellite remote sensing to precise 3D deposit modeling, enable more targeted and environmentally conscious extraction. At the same time, social and ecological concerns have become central. Environmental regulations, land restoration, community involvement, and debates about sustainable and fair resource supply shape current mining practices. The energy transition has increased demand for lithium, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth elements, reshaping global resource flows and geopolitical interests. Thus, mining developed out of fundamental human needs, from tools and salt to energy and advanced technologies, and was propelled by technological innovations, economic incentives, and political frameworks. Its history is closely tied to the development of society, technology, and economies, and continues to shape our world today. Deep beneath the earth, where no daylight reaches and the weight of stone presses heavy upon the shafts, miners have told stories for centuries of hidden beings and invisible forces. These tales were not mere superstition, but expressions of respect, fear, and hope in a world where every step could mean danger. The Berggeist, also called the Mountain King or Master Hammerling, was believed to be the guardian of all ores. People thought he decided whom to reveal his riches to and whom to deny. His presence was recognized by glowing eyes in total darkness, or by footsteps that cast no shadow. A faint tapping in the rock when no one was working was also taken as a sign of his nearness. He was said to be friendly to honest and diligent miners, but punished greed and deceit harshly. Most feared was the Berggeist's threefold tapping on the stone, a clear warning to leave immediately, for a collapse was near. Many miraculous escapes from cave-ins were later explained by such warnings. Alongside the mighty Berggeist, miners spoke of kobolds living underground. These small, often invisible beings were thought to be both helpers and tricksters. They might reveal a rich vein of ore with glittering dust, or place lost tools back where they belonged. But anyone who swore, boasted, or shirked work risked their anger. Thus arose the old saying, "In the mine no lie is spoken, because the mountain hears." After a good shift, miners would leave a piece of bread in the tunnel as a gift for the kobolds. Special reverence was given to Saint Barbara, the patron saint of miners. Her feast day, December 4th, is still observed today. Miners believed she guided their hands when darkness and danger were greatest. Before especially risky work, the foreman would remove his helmet and pray. Many miners still carry a Barbara branch, often a cherry twig meant to bloom by Christmas, or a small medal in their helmet. If the twig failed to bloom, it was seen as a sign of misfortune to come. Another mysterious being was the White Little Miner. It was said to appear only once in a miner's lifetime. If it laughed, good fortune and rich ore veins lay ahead. But if it appeared silent or sorrowful, it foretold disaster, collapses, flooding, or deadly gases. Survivors of mine accidents often reported having seen a pale figure in the tunnel shortly beforehand. There was also the belief in the mine voice. In silent, abandoned levels, miners sometimes heard whispering, footsteps, or even their own names called. Today we know such sounds can be caused by air currents, temperature shifts, or dripping water, but deep underground they feel like a presence. The miners used to say, "The mountain speaks." Listen but do not answer. These stories were far more than folklore. In the narrow, dark, dangerous depths, they gave miners strength. They taught rules of solidarity, honesty, and respect for the immense power of the mountain itself. In this way, the legends became a psychological protection in a world where courage and caution meant the difference between life and death. Deep in old ore mines where darkness and silence change the way one thinks, miners have spoken for generations of phenomena that still cannot be clearly explained. Some of these experiences can be understood through physics, while others seem like traces of an unseen presence. These stories are not mere folklore. Many come from eyewitness accounts of survivors or from mining reports in which unusual events were simply recorded without interpretation. One frequently described phenomenon is the so-called cold passage. In certain tunnels, miners would suddenly feel a heavy, chilling cold, even though there was no water, no draft, and the surrounding temperature was otherwise constant. The air felt dense and still, as if something invisible was present. Miners would whisper, "Something passed here." They did not mean a person, but rather something that was not meant to be seen. In such passages, some heard footsteps behind them, though no one was visible in the lamplight. These places were called forbidden spots, and miners avoided returning to them whenever possible. After cave-ins or entrapments, Many miners reported encounters with the third man. This referred to the perception of a companion who seemed to offer strength at a critical moment. Some described a hand on their shoulder, a voice saying keep going, or footsteps in total darkness, guiding them unerringly toward an exit. Today, such experiences might be explained as survival psychology, stress response, or the effect of oxygen deprivation. But miners themselves said, if he comes, he is there to lead you out. But never ask his name. For them, this was no hallucination but help. Certain dangers could be sensed if one listened closely. Just before fire damp, explosive mine gases ignited, many miners reported a deep, muffled sound, like the mountain taking a breath. Then came complete silence. Those who understood the signal ran and lived. Others who did not recognize or ignored it did not. Miners also reported strange lights in abandoned sections of the mine. Several helmet lamps would flicker at once, as if an unseen hand were draining their power. Electricians today explain this as moisture and mineral conductivity in the rock. The old miners simply said, the old ones have risen. Some tunnels were considered so dangerous or uncanny that they were left untouched, even if they contained rich veins of ore. When tapped, the rock sounded wrong, too hollow or too dull. The air felt heavy like before a storm, and sometimes miners heard sounds that could not have come from any human presence. The overseers would say, the mountain is at peace here. We leave it. This was not surrender, but respect. Alongside such experiences, miners told of beings said to dwell underground. One of these was the Black Rider. He was believed to appear to those who grew greedy and sought only wealth. He was seen only as a dark silhouette, tall, cloaked, faceless. He followed the miner silently. Whoever turned around to look at him 3 times was said never to return alive. Thus the elders warned, if something follows behind you, keep walking. Do not look back. The water woman was said to appear before flooding. She made herself known through soft weeping or singing, through water dripping in sudden rhythm, or through a faint pale glow above underground pools. Those who heard her left the area, and often water broke through shortly afterward. Another figure was the weather caller, an unseen herald of changes in the air. A warm gust meant good fortune and new ore veins. A cold gust warned of collapse, gas, or death. He was neither good nor evil, but a messenger. For this reason, miners paused at the start of each shift, listening carefully to how the mountain breathed. These traditions were, above all, protective. They reminded miners to remain alert, humble, and watchful. Underground safety was always borrowed, and every miner knew the mountain could give and it could take away. The legends and accounts helped them take the unseen seriously and preserve life. In that darkness, stories were often the clearest warnings they had. The old miners lived with the awareness that the mountain was its own realm, dark, oppressive, full of danger and secrets. Underground, special rules of conduct applied, not dismissed as superstition but understood as necessary for survival. They said, the mountain listens. Words carried weight, and what was spoken could become real. For that reason, one never spoke lightly of death or disaster. Instead of saying someone had died, they said he had met with misfortune. And instead of good luck, they wished Glück auf, for luck in the mine was not a matter of chance, but of respect. Whistling was strictly forbidden. On a symbolic level, whistling was considered a call to spirits, a provocation of the unseen. It also had very practical reasons. Certain sound vibrations could influence pockets of explosive mine gas. Miners said, he who whistles wakes the mountain. Singing followed a similar logic. Anyone who sang alone in a tunnel would hear echoes, whispers, sometimes something that seemed to sing back. Such effects could unsettle the mind, and in the mine a troubled mind was as dangerous as loose rock. Arrogance was the greatest taboo. Anyone who boasted they would take everything from the mountain placed themselves above nature, and such pride was believed to invite disaster. The mountain gave only what it wished to give. Miners knew challenging it meant risking one's life. Likewise, one must never look back if footsteps were heard in the deep tunnels. Whether echoes, dripping water, or imagination, the act of turning around could trigger panic, and panic in darkness was deadly. A legend phrased it simply: whoever looks at the mountain will be seen by it. Nothing was to be taken from the mine except what was intended to be extracted. A stone taken as a souvenir from a living mine was considered dangerous. People believed the mountain would follow the thief upward. Today one might call it respect for the workplace, the material and the community. Similarly, miners always left a piece of bread behind when they ate, not for hygiene, but as an offering to the kobolds, the unseen helpers of the mine. Anyone who kept everything for himself was said to be working against the spirits and thus against his own fortune. One rule was taken especially seriously. The name of a missing miner was not to be spoken until he was found. The belief was that the mountain had not yet decided his fate. At the same time, this silence served discipline. No rumors, no panic, no premature conclusions. And finally, when the Steiger mine foreman shouted out, everyone moved without question. No explanations, no hesitation. The foreman was the one who felt the mountain. Experienced miners could sense instability seconds before a collapse or gas outburst occurred. Many survival stories begin with the oldest principle in mining. We did not ask. We ran. These rules endured for centuries because they were more than tradition. They combined safety, mental stability, and camaraderie. Underground, every mistake was final. There was no light, no time, no room for pride or carelessness. The taboos kept the mind calm and the ego small. They reminded everyone that the human being does not command the mountain. He is only a guest within it.